Hello, cardboard culture friends. It's Kent here with another video. Today, I want to talk about other collectibles, just besides trading cards, sports cards. One of the things that Amit and I like to highlight on our show is the other collectible aspects out there besides cards. As you've seen from previous guests, we've had coins. We've talked about Lego. We've talked about stamps. And one of the things I wanted to show for everybody, because I haven't seen a video on it, is Canadian banknotes, which is something that I started collecting when I was younger, when I had a paper route. So when I had a newspaper route, I'd deliver newspapers. And back then, majority of the people would not give you a check, or they wouldn't have automatic withdrawal or automatic EMT and stuff like that. They'd pay you cash. So for me, I started just putting away any kind of odd notes that were different from the current notes at that time. So what I'd like to do is share with you some of the notes that I have that I've collected throughout the years. And I'm going to start off with a little segue into the fact that, as you can see right here, so the Bank of Canada was, and this is specifically for Canadian banknotes. So for in 1934, the Bank of Canada was created, and then 1935 they started issuing their first ever banknotes. Unfortunately, I don't have any notes that date back to the very first run. But they did have denominations of like 1, 25, 2, 5, 10, 50, 100, 500, a $25 note. Was it $25? Yeah, I think a $25 note and like $1,000 note. And $1,000 note back in 1935 would be a lot of money then. But I don't have any of those. What I'm going to focus on right now as I go through the years is the next series of notes that came out in 1937. So I'm going to share that with everybody here. Because again, I haven't seen a video that highlights these. So I thought it'd be kind of neat to show what the banknotes back in 1937 looked like. So here's a $1 bill. It's got King Edward VIII on there. As you can see, it's a very quite used note, as you can see. There is the top here is miscut, as you can see. It's not quite cut cleanly. There's white here, and then there's no white over here. So it wasn't cut quite too well. And here's the back design, which is pretty cool. I love the old artwork on these. So that's a 1937 $1 note. Okay. And now we're going to go on to the $2 note from 1937. This one's cut a little bit better. Again, it features King Edward VIII. So that's a $2 note there. Although, as you can tell, there's a little bit more white on the border here than there is on the right. So again, the cutting back then was a little bit off. And then here's the design on the back of the $2 note. Again, these are from like 1937. That's a $2 note. What I don't have is the $5 note, unfortunately. But I do have the next one up, and that's a $10 note. And somebody in pen wrote 75 bucks on there. So again, 1937, $10 note. And there's the back detail design. And I love the artwork on here. And these notes were printed by the British American Banknote Company Limited back in the day. So that's a $10 note. Moving on, we got the $20 note from 1937. And again, these are very well used and worn, and they've seen a lot of action back and handled quite extensively. And then here's the design on the back of the 20, which is pretty cool. So again, that's a 1937 $20 banknote. And then we've got a $50 note, and this has got the orange hue to it. Again, another very well worn, used note. And again, the cutting was slightly off, as you got a thicker border on here, a thinner border over here, then a thin border on the top, and then a slightly thicker border on the bottom. And look at that design there. Orange. Love this orange. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool design there. That's a $50 note. Now I'm going to move it up a little bit up a notch to the $100 note. So 1937, $100 was a lot of money back then for people. And this is featuring, so the $100 note no longer features the portrait of King Edward VIII. It actually has the first Prime Minister of Canada, John A. Macdonald. So that's a $100 note from 1937. And you flip it around, there's the image on the back. Again, pretty cool designs back then. So that's the 1937 series. So then moving along, we go to, which is the 54 series. And I don't have a lot of these, but I'll get into a variation of one of them in a minute, I think. So we've got the $1 note, which featuring Queen Elizabeth, so 54. And there's a variation, which I'll explain in a minute. So that's the $1 note from 1954. Very worn, very used note. And that's the, hard to see the detail, but it looks like the prairies of Canada. It's hard, the camera's hard to catch the green tint or hue that's being used on this note. So that's a $1 note. Then we've got the $2 note. This one's actually in really decent shape. And then it's got the nice, I guess, farmer's field or something like that. I can't remember what exactly the picture is portraying. But you can see the clouds. But definitely looks like a farmer's field. So that's a $2 note. Then we're going to get into the $10 note. And I'll come back to the $10 note in a minute, a little later. Here's the $10 note from 54. And this is a variation. So all the ones you've seen I've shown you are variants. They're corrected versions. And I'll explain why in a minute when I get into my variation notes and stuff like that. So this is a nice purple $10 note featuring Queen Elizabeth. And there you go. That's the back. All right. And then we go to 1967. Same idea, but this was the 100th anniversary of Confederation for Canada. So that's 1867, 1967. There's no serial number. So these were commemorative notes. This one's not bad. And the reason why I kept this one is, I'm just going to fade out a little bit. Right along here, there's red ink smear here on the edge there. You can kind of see it. Coming in closer, the focus won't focus too well, but you can kind of see it right there. So this had a bit of red ink smear, so that's why I kept it. But I've got a lot of these notes in bad condition, good condition. So, and then there's the back. That's the Parliament buildings. So that's what the back of that looks like. Okay. And then we're going to move along here. We're going to go to the next series of notes that came out in 69 to 75. And we'll start with the $1 note. This one's in really good condition too. Again, it's a more updated version, portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. So that's the front. Then you got the back, which is a very beachcomber-esque picture on the back with the boats and the logs. So that's the $1 from 69 to 75. And then we got a very good condition $2 note. It's got a bit of a fold there, but the rest of the actual note is actually in really decent shape, other than the slight fold that's there. And then that's the vignette portrait on the back. Okay. Then we got the $5 note, and this is where we start seeing some of the prime ministers of Canada on here. So this is the Wilfrid Laurier blue $5 note. And then that's the picture on the back. Pretty cool so far. Then we're going to go on to $10 note, which features John A. Macdonald, and this one's in rougher shape. I don't have a minty or copy of this version of the note. And that is the back, which I believe is like the petroleum industry, I think, is being highlighted on the back of this note. So there you go. So the 5 and the 10 feature 2 different prime ministers from Canada's history. And then the $20 note reverts back to Queen Elizabeth. So the 1 and the 2 is Queen Elizabeth, and the 20 goes back to Queen Elizabeth. So that's the $20 note. Okay. And that's the back. Now, I've got a different version coming up. So these are the notes of 1979. So in order to try and avert counterfeiting and stuff like that, they upgraded this note, which is similar to this note. The difference is really the serial numbering. So where'd the serial numbering go? Well, a couple actually no. There's lines going through the. So there's actually more lines here that are not present on the 69 to 75 $20 note right there. As you can see, there's more vertical lines in there inside the coat of arms box. And what else did they do? Did they do anything with the portrait at all? Yeah, the portrait now it has a different hue. Whereas it's just mainly a green hue and a white circle. It's got a green and then a kind of a pink and then a white, and with lines going through it as well. So what did they do other than, well, it's funny, it's interesting because all they did was actually just put these serial numbers on the back, which are longer, and no letters in front. But the portrait is literally the same. Pretty much, right? The back hasn't really changed much, as you can see. So that was interesting. So back then they did the 5s and the 20s, and I don't have a 5 of the updated version like this with the numbers on the back, with the serial numbers on the back. So we'll move along to the next series of notes. So then we go to the series of notes from 1986 to 1991. And we'll start off with $2 note. It's Queen Elizabeth. And this is the bird series, so it's got featuring a pair of robins. I don't have a lot of these ones for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't into birds or something back in the day. The next series, I don't have the 5. So the 5 is Wilfrid Laurier and features a kingfisher. Then I have the $10 note, which is John A. Macdonald again. And that features an osprey. Again, this is known as the bird series of notes. So then there's a $20 bill, which features the loon. $50 bill that features the snowy owl. What was on the back? There's a $100 bill and a $1,000 bill. And what was on the back on the $100 bill? I'm trying to remember now. But back of the $100 bill, I believe featured, of course, the Canada Goose. So that was on the back of the $100 bill. And then I think in the back of the $1,000 bills, which are known as the Pink Ladies, I believe that was a grosbeak, like type of bird. So, yeah, for some reason I don't have a lot of those particular series of notes, but that's okay. We'll keep moving along here. So now we're going to the notes from 2001, 2002. So there's, again, and what they introduced here is, I don't know if you can see right there, they started introducing Braille onto the notes. So that for the folks that were visually impaired, they could actually feel it and know it was a $5 bill. So again, the $5 bill features our Prime Minister back then, which was Sir Wilfrid Laurier. And this series is from the 2001. It's hard to tell, but it's hard to see, but it's 2001 right there, printed in 2001, right there. So that's a 2001 version. And then it's the same note, right? It's got the reflective leaves right there. And this one is printed in 2003, right there. 2003. And then I have a really crisp one. This one's printed in 2005. And what's really cool is, I don't know if I can show it without, but if I tilt it, there you go. Can you see the maple leaf right there? The maple leaf, kind of frosted maple leaf right there. That was a new security feature there that was added because this is in the 2005 note. It's also on the 2003 note, but the 2001 note originally, when it first came out, does not have the frosted maple leaf there. It's not there. So it was an addition. So when they did the 2003, 2005 notes, they added the frosted maple leaf, which you can see. It's really cool. And this note is in really uncirculated condition. That's why it's in this holder. Again, if I tilt it, you'll see the gold maple leaves right there. And again, and then there's the braille right there. Really nice note. And the thing I like about the older paper notes, because you used a lot of rag and stuff like that, so you can see like the cotton fibers that are still embedded in the notes, which I love. And they're more noticeable, maybe not on these ones, but there's other ones I'll show you later coming up that will have the embedded fibers in them. But you can see there's a piece of fiber there, there's a piece of fiber right there. What's funny about these particular notes is the government of Canada actually, or the Bank of Canada, was telling people to stop defacing the note because, and Amit will like this because he's a Star Trek fan. They were drawing images of Spock, Leonard Nimoy's character, over Wilfrid Laurier's face. So they would keep this part, but over here they would put in the Vulcan ears and the hair, doodle the hair in there. So you'd have these like defaced Spock notes, which was pretty funny back in the day. But that's what they're doing with these notes, because you could draw on them and create Spock notes, in case nobody knew about that. But yeah, that's what they're doing. I don't have one of those. If I did, I would have kept it. But I've seen them out in the wild, but not too much now, because these little notes are basically kept by the bank and they get destroyed now, even though these are legal tender. Speaking of which, I should have said the $1 notes and $2 notes were no longer legal tender as of January 2021, because in Canada now we have the loonies and the toonies. So those replaced the, like that's a loonie right there. So that replaced the $1 note. And I have a toonie on me right now, but that replaced it. The toonies replaced the $2 notes. Okay. Now, still on the 2001, 2002 series notes. This is another uncirculated $10 note, which is really cool. Again, you can see some of the fibers right there, like the piece of fiber hanging there, cotton fiber there. And then that's the back. And if you see that there's the other security feature on this note too. So if I tilt it, you'll see the frosted birds right there. There's one, two frosted birds. If I go like that, it's hard to see them. But yeah, that's a $10 note from the 2001, 2002 updated series. And this one even has the other notes numbers that are kind of like imprinted on the front of this one. So the next note's numbers kind of stuck on here a little bit. You can see right there. Not fully. If it was fully, it'd be a cooler error. Okay, so moving on to the next series of notes, which are going to be from 2004, 2006. We've got this hologram security strip on the left. They also started introducing the security strip, which is similar to like the US notes. And I'll flip it back. You can see the security strip right there. And it's just an updated version of the of this note right here, but with security features in it. So, and you can clearly see the strip on the right-hand side. So that's an updated version of those notes. So these are from 2004 to 2006. So that's a $5 note there. And then it's about pictures of kids partaking into winter sports activities. Okay, so that's a 5. And we got the 10 with John A. McDonald, again with the holographic security strip on the left, and then we've got the inserted strip on the right. Again, you can see the rag lines, or the cotton fiber lines. One on his lip, one on his nose, one over his eye. There's a couple more here and there. And then here's the back, again with the security strip on the back. And oh yeah, that was the one thing I didn't show, but you can see the watermark of Sir John A. McDonald's image right there. And then this weird 10, and then another 10 there. So there are a lot of different features that they were added. And that's also on the 5 too. So watermark of the portrait of Wilfrid Laurier, the $5 there, and then the 5. So, all right, moving on to the $20 note. So this features Queen Elizabeth. Again, holographic strip on the left, security strip on the back. And when I tilt it, you'll see her watermark image portrait, the 20, and then the 20. And then that's the back side there. Then moving on to the $50 note, which features another Prime Minister, William Lyon Mackenzie King. Whoops, held it a little too high. Again, holographic strip on the left, more Braille, as you can see. There's a lot of Braille there on the top here. And if I tilt it, should be able to see William Lyon Mackenzie's watermark portrait, and the 50, and then the 50. And when I flip it around, there's the design on the back with the security strip. Okay. Oh, and the reason I have a different series of notes here. So this one's printed in 2004. This one is printed in 2006. And nothing different other than the printing dates. Pretty well everything else is the same. This one's from 2008. And then we have another one. This one was printed in 2011. Okay. Then lastly, the $100 note, which features Sir Robert Borden. Again, you've got the Braille, you've got the security strip on the back, you got the holographic strip on the front. And that's the back, featuring a map of Canada and satellites. And then you've got the strip on the back. So that's there. Now I'm not showing our current batch of Polymer notes, because everybody kind of knows what those look like right now today. I was just more focusing on the older ones. And now we've got these commemorative notes. So this one was from 2017, celebrating the 150th anniversary of Confederation. So you got Sir John A. MacDonald, Sir George Etienne Cartier, Agnes MacPhail, James Gladstone. And this is the Polymer notes. So the Polymer notes came out in 2011 to 2018. So we've had the Polymer notes for a while now, but I just wanted to show you that. And then it's got this interesting green, looks like stained glass security feature there. Then you flip it around. That's what the back looks like. So it's literally plastic note. It's not paper. I'm not going to fold it, because if I fold it, I'm going to put a crease in this, and I don't want to do that. But it's polymer. It's plastic. This is when we started getting some plastic Canadian notes. This is where we're going to get into the variants and stuff that I collect, because I'm always looking for errors or interesting, I guess, errors or varieties in the notes. So let me make sure I've got the proper one. So this is the first vertical note that Canada issued. And it features Viola Desmond. And this one came out in 2018. She was a successful businesswoman. She defiantly refused to leave a whites-only area of a movie theater in 1946, and then was subsequently jailed, convicted, and fined. So again, it was recognizing Black history, what they had to deal with back in the day, and to even a certain extent today, still. But this is a cool note. It's a vertical note. One of the first ones that Canada has done. Again, it's got the braille there. What's interesting is, if I can highlight that, yeah. Okay, I'll actually show you the back first before I talk about what is interesting about the note. So, and then it's got the cool holographic strip design there, and then this kind of like a golden feather. So what's interesting about this note, so if I hold it in the light, okay, so see how the 10 here has a bit of a white, and then a kind of a white edge. It's kind of like, and it only appears on the 0 of the 10. So there's like a shadow, right? If I hold this one, see how there is no shadow? Like, this one is actually printed pretty decently. So the 0 on the front and the 0 on the back line up properly. Now, look at this one. This one's actually this one's the best one. Sorry, I went in the wrong order. So this one, the 0 is actually lined up properly. Like, there's no white at all. See, when I hold it up, you see all the blue. There's no white or ghosting shadow image there. But now when I do this, oops. See how there's a slight shadow there and there's none there? And then when I hold up this one, see how the 0, like the shadow doesn't even line up. The 0 on the other side of the note doesn't line up with the 0 on this side of the note, on the front and the back. So you've got a big overlap here. So some would say that was an error. I don't know if it's an error. It's definitely an interesting variety. But some folks have classified it as an error. So again, see the shadow? No shadow. One on the left has no shadow. The one on the right has a big time shadow. This one has a slight shadow. But to each their own. But I did keep this just for the fact that the zeros don't line up properly. And you can notice that. So that's one interesting variation. And I'm moving along to the variations now that I collect, or I look out for. All right. This $50 Polymer note. What is interesting about this one? Well, if you notice the serial number AMA, and you notice AMA, it's hard to. This A is actually smaller than the rest of the letters. I don't know if you can see that. I can't go zoom in too much because it'll go out of focus there. But if you notice the A right there, it's small. It's a small letter A compared to the M and the A, to the middle M and the A on the right. And if you look at the AMA on the right side here, they're all the same size. But that A there is small. Small A, regular size M, regular size A. So that was interesting. I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe the when they were stamping it, the stamper or the press didn't hit that part of the note too hard or too well, and it created a small letter A. Now, I've got a different version of that too. Where's that $10 bill? Okay, this $10 polymer note is really beat up, like really, really well worn and used. So I've got a similar situation here. So you can see the FTV, all same size letters, 09312556. But then when you go on the right side, FT is the normal size, but the V is small. It's a small letter V, 09312556, and you can see it. It's a small letter V. That V is small compared to the V on the left. Pretty cool, huh? All right. And then we've got a $5 polymer note, well worn and used. What's interesting about the serial number is, and people collect these, is the low numbering. So this one's actually numbered 246, and you have 4 zeros in front. Now, people collect really low numbered serial numbers, and the lower the better, because it's really hard to find a low numbered serial number. So that's one of the things that people collect when it comes to banknotes, low serial numbering. So that's my lowest one I've ever found in the wild. Again, these are being found in the wild by me. I'm not going to the bank and asking for bundles of bills and going through them. I'm just collecting them as I find them in the wild. So this one's lowest numbered serial numbered note I have, 246. This one's really cool, and these I got in the wild. And these are two $10 notes, Polymer notes, FTG, and you can't get any more binary than a $10 note with a binary serial number. So if you got the 10, the 10 on a $10 note, then you got a bunch of 01s, and so you got 0101 100, and even the one of the zeros, like this, the last zero actually looks a little higher than the rest, but this side's actually printed really good. But it's a binary note. It's 01s and 110s. So that's one I found in the wild, but then I found another one in the wild, which unfortunately, again, unfortunately these two notes are really worn and used. It's too bad, but I'm still going to keep them because they're binary notes on a $10 bill. So here we go. We've got FTL, but what's interesting is you got 001, 0010. It's almost a 3-digit repeater. 001, 001, 0. And it's a binary note because it's only zeros and ones on a $10 bill. Pretty cool, huh? I thought so. Anyway. So that's my binary notes on $10 bills. Okay. Okay, so what we got here? So we've got an interesting note here. So we've got a regular note, $5 note. Good shape, right? And these are the 2004-2006 series notes. Again, Wilfrid Laurier. What's interesting about this particular note, it's actually miscut at the bottom. And it's not majorly miscut, but I noticed it was miscut. Because if you go and you follow along here, the bottom gets thin, but then it gets wider as you go towards the left. So it's thin cut on the bottom, and then it goes wider on as you head towards the left. I'll just hold that there so you can see it for yourself. And then if I put the other note below it, you'll see what I mean immediately, because where the J is on the upper note, there's less space between the J and the border than on the bottom note, which is cut correctly. There's more space and it's evenly spaced out. It's a slight miscut, but it's a miscut nonetheless. So I thought that was pretty cool. Oops. And the other interesting note about these ones, these are known as the stars on the stick blade variations. So if you look closely on the stick blade of the girl number 9, there's 2 white dots on the blade. And these are the I guess star note or note, like the star on the blade note variations. So that's the other interesting about these notes too. But again, if you look closely, the top note is definitely miscut compared to the bottom note. So that's another one of those ones that I found in the wild, and it was actually in really good condition. So what we got next here? Okay, this is an interesting note. I literally got this from I think I was buying a Tim Hortons coffee, and you can tell it's from a clean bundle, but can you see the error though? Yeah, this note is pretty well much in uncirculated condition, but what the error is actually on the holographic strip. It's damaged. It has all these groove cuts into it, but nowhere else on the note. The groove cuts don't go into the actual outside of the holographic strip. There is no scratches on the polymer part of the note anywhere. It doesn't start on the polymer part. It's actually just in the strip itself. So this is an interesting error. And I've seen some of these errors on different series of notes as well, besides the 5. Cool, huh? And again, it's almost a low number note too. It's actually 000022605. But so yeah, I had another one of these too as well, but I ended up giving it to my uncle, and it was also on a $5 bill, Polymer. Okay, what do I want to share? Oh yeah, this before I get into those ones. So these are interesting. So these were one of the very first $5 Polymer notes that came out, and it's got what's his name? It's got I can never remember this guy's name on the left here. Hang on a second. Who's the guy on the left? Macklem. It's Macklem. So it's Macklem on the left and Carney on the right. What's interesting about these notes? I bet you guys, when you review this video, look at your $5 bills and tell me how many you can find with Macklem and Carney. You'll probably find Macklem and Polaz, or Wilkins and Polaz, or Wilkins and Macklem. But let me know how hard it is for you to find a Macklem and McCarney. And I managed to find 2 in the wild. And they also have the same serial numbering, or letter numbering anyway, HBG. So that's my challenge to everybody who's watching this video. Look through your $5 notes. Tell me if you can find Macklem and Carney. I bet you we won't. It's pretty hard. And the other interesting thing about this particular note, and it's too bad these are in rough shape, but there's also an ink smear around on the top of Wilfrid Laurier's face here. If I slide it down, this one doesn't have the ink smear. It almost looks like a bird poop on his face, but it's blue ink. It's a blue ink blob from the ink. So that's another kind of error variety as well. But that's my challenge to everybody watching this video. Can you find a Macklem and Carney in your change? I bet you can't. And if you do, then you're lucky. Now, the ones that are these notes that are in much better shape, pristine shape, they go for pretty good. And not super, but more than face value for sure. So yeah, that's my challenge. See if you can find one of those notes. All right. So again, we're going back to the what series of notes were? I should know the years by now, I think. So we're going back to the 2004-2006 series. So again, this is a normal, crisp, John A. McDonald $10 note, right? As you can see there. What's interesting about this one, it's actually got an error in it. And what is the error, you say? Well, if you look closely, you see the gaps of white on either side of the holographic strip, and it goes all the way down, so you can see it on the bottom there too. the actual holographic strip, for whatever reason, didn't fill in the gap on the note. You see that? There's bits of white there. That's better. You can see the white border exposed on either side of the holographic strip. Now, the properly done ones, there is no border. There's no white showing on either side of the holographic strip. Now, if I put these side by side, you should be able to see the difference. See how you got the white gaps on either side of the strip? So I'm not sure what happened with that, but it's definitely an error note. And I've brought this note to some of the banknote and coin shows that were pre-COVID, and I've had a few dealers look at it, and they agree it's an actual error. But it's an interesting error, right? The actual strip, for whatever reason, didn't fill in the gap where it's supposed to. The strip is thinner. Cool, huh? And last but not least, which is a very famous note. So these are going back to the 54 notes. There was two different varieties of the 54 notes. So let me get the $10 bill back from 54. All right. So this is the actual corrected version. And you're saying, what got corrected? Well, when the original 54 series of notes came out, they all featured something that people were aghast at and said, well, that's blasphemy. You can't have it on the Queen's hair. But if you look closely, right in her curls right there, you can kind of see like a face, a scary face. These are known as the devil's notes. But you can see like kind of a nose and a couple eyes there. There. Can you see it? So people were taken aback by these notes, the original 54 series notes. So what happened was they issued replacements. Now I see the curls in her hair. It's different, right? I'll hold them side by side. Actually, if I go like this, maybe. Nah, actually, if I do it side by side like this. See the curls here? That's the original, and that's the curls. Original, curls. Or no curls, sorry. No curls in there, and there's more curls there, which resemble the face. So yeah, the one beneath here is corrected version, and the one is the original version. And as you can see, the original version is a deeper purple, and on the back, as you can see, the corrected version has a more violet tone to it versus a less deeper purple. Same portrait, same picture. So yeah, pretty cool, right? It's pretty cool variety. It's hard to find the 54 ones or the original ones. You're probably more likely to find the corrected versions out there. But I'm pretty sure the original ones are out there too. But it's just a perfect example of varieties and errors. So let me just put this one away real quick. I don't want it to get damaged anymore. Right, so that is my own personal collection of banknotes. The one I didn't have and I wasn't able to show was, it would be from which series? It would have been from, let's see here if I can find it real quickly. So these series of notes right here, which is 69 to 75, they also have replacement notes as well. And the difference was the replacement notes would have a star in front of the letters. Similar to, let's see here, to US replacement notes. So US replacement notes like this, they have a star on the right versus in front. Canadian banknote replacement notes would have a star in front, but the US banknotes have it on the back of the serial number. So This is a $1 replacement note for the US, as noted by the star. So when a note gets damaged during printing, they replace it, and then they put a star to note that this is a replacement note. So yeah, but I don't have an example of a replacement note for Canadian notes. So let me know. Let me know what you think of the video. Please comment below. Please comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. For those that have watched this video, do you also collect banknotes? Do you also have errors? Or do you are looking for errors? But that's the one thing I want to educate people, is that sometimes when you get your banknotes in your change, just take a minute to look at them. Is there any fancy serial numbers? Is there any kind of looking errors? Is there smudges? Is there some kind of mistake that's noticeable? Some of the examples too, and I want to bring back one of the more famous ones that's out there. And a couple of them have shown up before. Is these polymer notes. You're thinking, well, what kind of errors can you get on a polymer note? Well, I just showed you an example. This little A is kind of an example of an error. Plus, there have been notes in the wild where 2 serial numbers are double stamped on a polymer note, which is kind of unheard of. But so when you're thinking of a sheet, the whole sheet got double stamped, but only 1 or 2 have surfaced before that I've seen. So you can get errors like that. I've seen also an error note where there's been a splotch of different color. So half of William Lyon Mackenzie King's face was brown, including the 0. So there's errors that can be had on polymer notes. So don't think that you can't find errors on polymer notes. So that's my video, folks. Let me know in the comments below, please. Do you collect banknotes? Do you look for errors? Do you look for fancy serial numbers? Anyways, I hope that this video was kind of educational in a way. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts. And always, thank you for watching. And please check us out live on Tuesdays for our guests. And Amit and I will see you all later. Peace.